Welcome to the Printed by Mama podcast with me, your host, Kirsty Field, supporting small business owners, entrepreneurs, creatives and crafters, encouraging you guys at home to just keep crafting and create a life you love without sacrificing yourself or your family. Each week I'll be bringing you inspiration, support and guidance on how to turn that hobby or side hustle into your dream job. And I'll be joined by some amazing guests who are already living their dreams. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Welcome friends, it's your host Kirsty here. As always, my favourite time of the week, our Sunday socials. And of course me, if you are brand new, welcome. I am wife, mama, small business owner, mentor and crazy crafty lady. Thank you for joining us on the PBM podcast. And Sundays, as I say, are always my favourite days because I am joined by one of our fabulous community members. She is a very busy lady, a mama, and she is also the owner and creator of Sparkles and Superstitions and Spooky Superstition. She's got a couple of hats on, this lady, very, very crafty. We're going to find out all about her. And it is Nicola. Hello, Nicola.
Hello.
How are you?
All right. Very tired as usual, but keep them going.
Yeah, keep going. That's it. 1 foot at a time. We've had a couple of technical issues this morning, but we are here and we are ready and rocking to go, aren't we, chicken? So why don't you start by telling everybody a little bit about you and what you do? And because I know you are one of these multi-business owners like myself, which is always fun to hear about. So tell us all about you.
Well, I've gained a new hat this week as well, so excuse me because my brain's completely up the wall because I'm going to work one of those employed jobs as well.
Oh,
why
not? Why not?
But single mum, and the business started officially as a business during lockdown, like a lot of them did. It was supposed to start just before, but then, as these things do, just sort of like started up getting booked in for events and stuff, and then the country's shut. Never mind.
Always helpful.
Not usually
always
the
fun.
hurdle you have to face in business, but
no, definitely not. And you were one of these brave ladies that went out there, which we have a few community members actually that started their businesses in lockdown, and now back to doing events again, which is always great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is that you sell, what platforms you sell on and things like that?
Platforms wise, I've got Instagram, but it does not make sense with my brain, so you don't see me on there very much. You see me a lot more on Facebook for both of my pages on there, and I sell on Etsy. I'm working on changing over my website, but the website will be back up shortly, hopefully. And I do wholesale as well through Fair.
That's really good, to hear about Fair. That was one of the questions I was going to ask you, actually, because wholesale is one of the things that I've dabbled with in the past, but I certainly want to get back into a lot more. So you've got, as I say, multiple hats. You've just mentioned you starting a new job out there as well. So Sparkles and Superstitions and Spooky Superstition. So you've got the sort of two, and when we talked about it, you said they're sort of under the same umbrella, and I know you've got potentially a third floating around as well. How do you manage doing the multiples? Because I mean I know that it's tough, and now you're throwing in a job as well. Is that a new full-time job or part-time job that you've taken on now?
I applied for a part-time job and they're training me as a supervisor. So yeah, that's kind of it around.
That's the same thing, isn't it? Yeah. So part-time, full-time to supervisor. Well, I mean, I'm all for, and the community will know, getting money in however that you can. So that's fantastic that you've got that opportunity now to sort of build into the other businesses. But talk to me a little bit about the ones that you have. How does that work? How do you sort of juggle the multiples? I know you said that it all sort of comes under one umbrella. How does that work for you? What does that mean to you?
I'll be honest, I don't tend to push both at the same time.
Okay.
I know we're supposed to be consistent on social media and all the
rest
of it.
It's tough, right? It's really tough.
I've got very, very strong superstitions that there's some wonky wiring in my brain somewhere.
You wouldn't be the only one. I've definitely got some copper wiring exposed in mine as well. You're definitely in the right place with that. Yeah.
So yeah, I do have the sort of ADHD tendency to wander off and do new things.
Hmm.
So it is quite good to be able to have the different places to put it all. Um, but the spooky superstition is actually where I was supposed to start off in the first place.
Okay.
Because sparkles and superstition, it was intended to be sort of like witchy trinkets and
Hmm.
centered around all of that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
when lockdown hit, I made some random little smiley faces for people, which wasn't intended to be a thing. It was just I had some clear line around and people needed little smiley faces.
Of course they did.
Um, and I think that the last time I counted, I made over 10,000 altogether.
Bloody hell. I mean, you were not giving yourself credit for this right now, okay? They're smile stones, that's the name of them, right?
Yeah.
And yet, having worked with polymer clay in the past, whether it be sort of Fimo or Sculpey or whatever brand that you're using, other brands are available, of course. Whatever, you always end up with the blob, right, of clay at the end, no matter what project you've used, there's always a blob at the end. So you sort of develop this into this, not only just a smiley face, you've created this whole ethos around this smile stone. You guys have got to go over to her socials and her stores and things to check these out, because they are amazing. It's just not in a rude way, and I don't want this to come across in rude. It's such a simple concept, but it's absolutely taken off, hasn't it? Absolutely.
It has. I think it's quite weird as well because obviously starting off in lockdown, you don't
Mhm.
see anything out in the world really.
Yeah, yeah,
Unless somebody posts it on your social media, it doesn't exist.
yeah,
And I've had people coming up to me stalls when I've been doing stalls locally. Yeah, I bought one of these. And they're still carrying it around in the pocket when they've had it from lockdown. And
yeah.
it's just so sweet.
What was kind of the? I mean, obviously, like we talked about, from the physical capacity, you had a blob of clay and made it into a smiley face. But how did that message come through to you? How did you sort of come up with the fact that you knew it wanted to, you knew you wanted to make it was it just that you wanted to give, people a little bit of happiness? You wanted them to be able to carry that around in their pocket like that lady did?
Um, yeah, basically, because I've always been one of these people who needs to find a way to do something.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you're stuck in the house with a 2-year-old,
Mhm.
no less, which was an ordeal and a half,
Yes.
there's not a lot that you can do if you don't have any funds
Hmm.
free to be able to like donate it where it needs to be.
Hmm.
So that was the thing that I did.
Yeah. And it's so important, and I can tell, I obviously, when you guys know by now, when I have a community member, sometimes I'll have a conversation with them before the podcast. This is the first time that I've spoken to Nicola on the podcast now, but obviously I go away and do a bit of a research, and I go and have a nose on everybody's stores, and add loads of stuff to my carts everywhere. But I've had a good read on Nicola's Etsy store, and the comments are just amazing about the stones. Just they clearly have made people so happy. You've really just landed on an absolute goldmine of an idea there, in terms of, people wanting something that they can carry around with them and that they could take with them, and that it really means something. And it may be just, like you said, a blob of clay when it starts, but the message behind it is so much more important. And I just absolutely love it. I love it. I may have two, I think, in my basket at the moment, and I haven't finished shopping yet. This is dangerous for me, you guys. When I speak to you community members, I end up putting loads of stuff in my baskets everywhere, and shopping. But that's what it's all about, isn't it? Supporting each other. That was part of the community. You touched briefly on the mental health side of things, and I want to reiterate to people at home that we have had a conversation already, and I know that you are happy to discuss that, as I am with my mental health journey and being transparent with that. How has having your own businesses and being a creative and things helped you with your mental health?
Well, creativity's always been the go-to place,
Hmm.
the happy place, the able to switch my brain off place.
Yeah.
So obviously being on my own with the little one and during lockdown, trying to navigate a pandemic world and do childcare and find a job, and all of the rest of it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So starting the business was partially necessity from what I enjoyed anyway,
Mm-hmm.
but it just sort of happened. I know I'm supposed to have some fantastic business plan about how it all works, but it
No,
just sort of happened.
happens. Well,
I launched my Etsy shop while the little one was throwing cereal at me
oh,
over breakfast one morning.
mm-hmm. Clearly celebrating
And
with the throwing of the Rice Krispies, you know, like some sort of confetti. We're open.
no, more just using Mammy for target practice, as we do. But yeah, obviously there was some form of a plan, I suppose, but I
Mhm.
started off with literally nothing. Like, when I was buying my first supplies, I took cheese off my shopping list so that I could buy supplies to make the stuff. This
Mhm.
is the amount of capital we
Now
started with.
I got to stop you there. The community will know from one of my latest rants about cheese. Because we're huge cheese fans in our house, so I am very empathetic with that. To take the cheese off your shopping list to buy craft supplies, that is dedication to a T right there. You've got me as a fan immediately just with that. You know, that is dedication completely. Mm.
Yeah, and obviously tying in with the mental health and stuff. Obviously, I struggled through the pandemic.
Yes.
It was that complete loss of purpose, I think.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
same for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely, sir. It was.
So having that to be able to feel like I was helping and doing something positive for people
Mm-hmm.
is possibly the only reason I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
That and obviously the little one.
Yes. Yeah.
But like as a separate entity to myself, it's one of the very few things that I had to keep me going.
Mm-hmm. Purpose, it's very important. Ironically, I've got a solo podcast where I talk about purpose, because that was something that I have struggled with for a long time, and it is so difficult. And anybody that hasn't experienced it themselves, they may have a partner or children or close family, friends, a job, a car, a house, whatever it is, but finding a purpose for yourself is very, very difficult sometimes. And as I say, I've been very open and honest about my struggles with my mental health and my issues when difficulties when I've thought about suicide and things like that. And it is that question, isn't it? What is my life purpose? Why am I here? What is the point? And sometimes you can't see the wood through the trees. So for you to be able to develop something that is just you, and I think sometimes as a mum you lose that as well, don't you? You lose a little bit of you when you have kids. You lose your identity a little bit, and being able to have something that is exclusively yours and stamp it on and say, this was me, I made this, I used my time, I used my cheese money to do this, and this is the result. And to get the pride and the feedback and the amazing comments that you have when you sell your products from people, that's got to give you such an amazing high, hasn't it?
It does. I mean, obviously with what it was that I was selling, there was a lot of heartfelt messages, like gift messages going in with the parcels as well, but messages sent to me, which meant a lot, but also very, very emotional.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When I was sat on my own in the house.
Yes.
So it was a bit of a wild ride really through like all of the pandemic, because it gave me so many more connections to people
Yeah.
than what I was expecting as well.
Yeah.
And being able to see, because obviously all I saw was the people who were reaching out and trying to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was so easy to miss all of that in amongst everything that was happening.
Yeah.
And it was quite a privilege to be able to be a part of so many supportive stories.
Yeah.
Even in such like a small way, it really, really helped to keep
That's
the
so
faith and keep you
lovely.
going, really.
So lovely. Again, I talk about, you know, doing your own businesses and things, and from a perspective of money and numbers, and living your life by the number of sales that you get and the amount of money. And I've said before, you know, don't get me wrong, earning money from doing what you love, and in the situation that you were in, you needed to earn money from what you were doing. That's why you chose to, you know, cash in the cheese. But being able to, like you say, be part of somebody's story, and to do it and actually, you know, make a space in the world for your products, and just to give that little bit of positivity to those people that, in, you know, pandemic was rough for everybody and some people had it a lot worse than others, granted, but for you just to be able to make something and give that out with such love and have the bonus of getting money from it is phenomenal. I want to bring you back to craft fairs you mentioned. I obviously am a huge fan of craft fairs, everybody knows. And you, as I said, started them at the beginning of the pandemic, and then everything went awry, and they're just starting to get back to what they were pre-pandemic. You know, they're very regular this summer than they were the last couple of years. Do you find a massive difference in terms of the clients that you tend to get between your sort of online stores and in person? Do you tend to have much sort of walk past sales? How does your sort of strategy differ between how you do it at home and sell and how you do it at craft fairs? Do you just rock up and just be yourself and let it all go?
The craft fairs that I'm doing at the minute, because I don't drive,
Mm-hmm.
so obviously not driving and having the little one with me, I have to limit how far I'm going,
Yes.
because yeah,
Chaotic in
either the kid or the
itself.
stock's
Yeah.
going to get abandoned at some point if I'm too far away. So it's only little local ones that I do, so it is quite nice to be able to get out and see the same people again. And I've got my regulars who come back for a chat and have a look,
That's
and
nice.
it is all like a nice community kind of feel at the events that I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I am looking more so with the spooky stuff at trying to get into a couple of the niche markets locally,
Yes.
to see what happens there, really. But
Yeah.
I think the economy's taken a toll everywhere for people's buying habits as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Because it used to be a case of you went to do a craft fair
Yeah.
and you were guaranteed some sales
Yeah.
from the other stall holders.
Yes.
But now none of the other stall holders have any
No.
money either.
Yeah. That's something I'd
And
noticed. Yeah.
it used to be the same 50 quid probably made it all the way around the market, but
Yeah.
everybody sold something, we just
Yeah.
spent it all again.
Yeah. It just
And
gives
now
you that
nobody
little
can afford to
pep,
do
doesn't
that,
it?
and it's
Yeah.
the same everywhere.
It is. It is. I'd mentioned in a podcast, I think it was last week. Etsy have recorded that their sales for 2023 are the lowest in multiple years. So as a company, they are struggling to bring traffic to their site and to support their business owners across the board. So, you know, there may be somebody who potentially didn't know that, and they're sitting at home going, "Oh my God, my Etsy store is doing terribly." It's not their store; it's Etsy as a whole. And you're absolutely right. People are having to scrimp and save and tuck money away. And yeah, I used to be the first one at these bleeding things. I always used to go to the craft fairs and spend more money than I actually made every single time, because I used to go, exactly like you said, round the other markets and buy everything else from everybody else. Which is great because it's nice to support others, again, part of the community experience here. But yeah, that now doesn't happen. Everybody's so, you know, clutched to the and again, another side of craft markets, I don't know whether you've experienced it as well, it's card based now. You know, it used to be, I used to have to make sure I'd got the tin of money with all the change and things like that, and yes, people do still do cash for things like that, but I had to then invest in getting the PDQ machine and everything else with Square and get that all set up, because again, you know, cash sort of went on the bypass, didn't it, when the COVID hit, because nobody was using cash in certain places, wouldn't accept it at all. I did see a picture on, I've got to ask, on your Facebook page of a gorgeous little setup that you had a little helper for. Tell us about that, because I just think
I
that's amazing. Tell me
did.
the story.
My little guest artist stand, you mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my little one, obviously, he's been seeing me making stuff for, well, most of his life now.
Yeah.
So he's always been wanting to be like into it and messing with stuff, which
Mm-hmm.
is great when I'm trying to get work done as well. I can just sit in with his own little
Yeah.
collection of clay and eyes and bits and let him crack on.
Here's your stuff. Here's mummy's stuff. Off you go.
Yeah, he still wants mummy's stuff though.
Yes.
There was very nearly a beheading of a wedding cake topper this morning when he woke up.
Oh
But we're all
Lord.
good. She survived.
Oh, good, good. So he made up some items, didn't he? They were monsters, is that right? He made up little monsters with eyes and things
Little
in.
monsters, and there was a couple of little flowers and stuff as well. Yeah,
Oh,
so I
bless
put him a little
him.
tiny shelving unit on my stall, and he sold more than I did.
For those of you who don't know, right, I've got a coffee that I'm sipping as always when I do podcasts. You know, I'm a coffee addict, everybody. I had to stop because I thought I was going to spit it out then when when Nicola said that, because yeah, that is the thing, isn't it? So he made way more than you at the craft fair, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He even had a telephone order and 2 online orders through my Facebook page.
Oh, bless him. Oh, that's so lovely. But I mean, as a mama myself, the guys all know with my girls, crafting with your kids is, if you get the opportunity, I mean, they don't even have to be your kids. I'm not saying that obviously if you don't have kids, you can just go out and find some random kids to do it with, but you know, nieces and nephews, or if you're in an environment where you can potentially give back to the community if you haven't got your own kids to do it with at home, being able to share that is so amazing. And just the feeling of seeing their little faces when they've made something that they love, and then the exchange of like a few coins for it if you get to the point that you can sell it on. It's so amazing, isn't it? As a mom, you get proper feels, it's proper pride, isn't it?
He was so chuffed, bless him, because obviously it was half term as well. And he's used to the "no, we can't do this, we don't have any money"
Yes.
lines lately, because it's, well, over winter we want it to be warm.
Yes. Yeah. Got to make tough choices. Yeah.
So it was lovely to be able to like just give him his little bag of money. Go, right, you have this. We are going to a couple of shops like downtown, and you're going to go and buy some toys. You can spend as much of it as you want, and then tomorrow we'll go to the cinema. And it was absolutely over the moon, bless him. And I was obviously thrilled when he bought the water guns. It was fantastic.
Why do they always pick complete crap? You know, with all the money that you give them, they will just buy complete rubbish. And yeah, usually something that they can, you know, throw at you, or yeah, it's disposable, that they last for 5 seconds, and that's how it goes, isn't it? Oh, what they like. I want to cover as well the you know, we talked about the fact that you've got multiple hats in terms of the different businesses, and obviously your new part-time slash full-time slash supervisor extraordinaire job now. We talked about polymer clay obviously as a medium, but I didn't realize until I had a nose through, as I say, your page and stuff, you are a super crafter. This is another term that I'm coining, and I am going to make some t-shirts that say super crafter, and they are going to be available on the store, just to let everybody know. But you are a super crafter. You are one of these amazing ladies that has multiple different talents. You make jewelry, you obviously do the polymer clay side of things. Is there a particular medium that is your favorite one to use, or one that potentially you'd like to try in the future that you haven't tried before?
I'd love to get into more design type stuff.
Cool.
And obviously have the dreams that all crafters have of things like sublimation printers and laser cutters and 3D printers and all the fun things to play with.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But my favourite medium, it was the jewellery, because it was supposed to be a jewellery business, hence the sparkles thing, but it's all got a little bit waylaid. But to be fair, like business wise, that was probably a good choice anyway, because trying to get jewellery seen on Etsy or anywhere online is very, very hard, because there's just so many people.
There is.
But I do still do it a little bit alongside everything else.
Yeah. I think that's the smart way to go, isn't it? To be able to, if you are a super crafter and you're multi-talented like Nicola and myself and lots of you other guys out there, being able to have a store where you have multiple different options is definitely a good way to go, because you are opening yourself up to sales from multiple different people, aren't you, in that phase? If you are only just sticking to, and there's nothing wrong with just sticking to one medium and one niche if that's what you love and you're passionate about, but if you want to expand a little bit more, being able to be slightly versatile is a good thing, because you could get somebody coming in and buying one of those pieces of jewelry, but also adding one of your smile stones because they fell in love with them, or the opposite. They've gone on because they found out about the smile stones, they love them, and then they add one or two pieces of jewelry and some other bits and pieces. You briefly touched on sublimation. I actually discovered sublimation this year, and I friggin' love it. If anybody doesn't know what sublimation is, it is literally a way of printing off your own designs on paper with a special ink on a sort of converted printer at home, and then you can add that to shirts, clothing, multiple different things, and it's addictive. It is expensive to get into as an option because you have to have this converted printer, and obviously I bought my heat press that's behind me now, but it is amazing. And it's that next step up from, if anybody's ever done sort of vinyl work and HTV with the Cricut and things like that, it's that next phase up from that, because you can do much more intricate designs, of course. So yeah, I'm totally there with you on the sublimation. I love it, and that's how I do a lot of my shirts and things now. But yes, so I'm always going, oh, I quite like that shirt, and then I'll just go and print myself off a design, and then away it comes. So where do you sort of see yourself going to with the business side of things? I know you're going to be super busy now with your new supervisor position and things. What are your sort of goals and dreams? And you've mentioned a couple more things that you wanted to look into. Where do you sort of hope to take the business throughout the rest of 2023, for example?
The rest of 2023, I think, is just going to be ticking along and see what sticks, really. I'm enjoying having kind of the best of both worlds with the businesses, really. I've got a lot of the kind of staple lines of things over on the Sparkles and Superstition side of it, and then on the Spooky Superstition I'm doing more custom pieces.
Great.
So like I'm just starting doing testers now for custom wedding toppers.
Oh, cool.
Like alternative people, so people who want like gothic weddings or
love that so much,
like that, because there's not that much out there. So being able to get something that is just you would be great for people, I think. So I suppose that's another way that I'm keeping me head above water as well, having the things that don't need a lot doing with them other than making the stuff and sending it on one side, and then the other side to keep things interesting. But I think hopefully the economy will be recovering at some point.
Yes, we can all hope, can't we?
I think that'll be when I'm looking at putting a lot more back into it, with like lots of new ideas and new development of stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of why I've got the job now, because obviously I need the money coming in.
Yeah.
But
does help. It does help, doesn't it? Yeah. It allows you to buy the cheese and the craft items at that point, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I might even be able to afford 2 different kinds of cheese.
Oh, fancy gal. Party at Nicola's house. She's got 2 varieties of cheese, folks.
But yeah, I think just ticking along for a while and sort of letting the creativity do what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And see what happens. Sure. I'm trying not to plan, because the plans never work, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you've got to be open to a bit of change, haven't you? And you certainly have been, you know, from starting during lockdown and, you know, all geared up for craft fairs, then having to move over and socials, because like you say, unless you're sort of on socials nowadays, unfortunately, you sort of don't exist in a lot of people's eyes. But what you've done is amazing, hun. I am super duper proud of you. Your smile stones are just, they are beautiful. They're lovely. They are great to have in your pocket, exactly as Nicola said with the example that she mentioned. And also to give to people, they are just wonderful. And you know, as a concept, and being able to pass that out to people right now, it's a great way. And I mean, Nicola, I'm sure will be able to post them anywhere that you want in terms of sending them to friends and family. So make sure you go and check her out. Facebook, Instagram, and also on the Etsy store as well is where we can find you, isn't it? I want to thank you so much for joining us today. As always, whilst you are over on the socials, make sure you look at Printed by Mama. Make sure you are liked this video and show Nicola some love, and please subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on next week's guest. We've got another fabulous guest next week to chat to. But for now, Nicola, thank you so much for joining me. It's been lovely to chat to you. I'm super excited to see what happens for you for the rest of the year, and I want to wish you lots of luck in your new job, because I know it's tough starting a new one, especially if you've been out of action for a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be an experience. First time going out to work as a mama.
Tough
But
times.
yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
No, you're very welcome. Yeah, lots of love to you. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Again, pleasure as always. Make sure you are signed in, logged in, joined up, and all that jazz. And we will catch you again next week. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.